Over the next few hours, you will ingest fat, salt, sugar, protein, bacteria, fungi, various plants and animals, and at times entire ecosystems.
You thought the menu was just a satire, a twisted little joke about chefs gone mad and foodies gone blind. Think again, because that movie, it was barely fiction. Behind every $1,000 tasting menu that comes with a script, behind every chef treated like a philosopher king, lurks a dining world that worships ego and breeds insanity. Restaurants like Iris, The Alchemist, Enigma, they're not just pushing culinary boundaries, they're manufacturing pretentiousness at scale. You're not eating, you're performing, and worse, you're being trained. Trained to nod solemnly at fermented vapor. Trained to post, praise, and never, ever question the culinary emperors. These temples of taste don't just serve weird food, they breed the world's worst diners, hyper-trendy and truly self-serious. Chef Slowik said it best, we're all part of the menu. And this is the menu. In real life, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications because we're exposing how fine dining went from art to absurd.
Hawthorne Island comprises 12 acres of forest and pasture. We have the bounty of the sea surrounding us.
Oh yeah, right.
Out there right now, we're harvesting scallops. You'll eat them tonight.
In the menu, guests are ferried to a remote island. No phones, no escape, just curated exclusivity. That's not fiction. That's Iris, a real-life restaurant in a floating orb in Norway. You don't book a table, you book an experience. It starts with a 1.5-hour boat journey through dramatic glacial fjords. No roads, no drop-ins, no options. Your dinner? A 19-course tasting menu themed around climate, biodiversity, and Nordic mysticism. Langoustine tail smoked over pine needles. Reindeer heart tartare with fermented spruce. A dessert made of plankton foam, sea buckthorn, and glacier ice. Guests eat inside a glass dome, suspended above water and surrounded by silence. The only outside contact? Staff in blackout uniforms serving with cultish precision. Iris GM Annette Solly put it bluntly, there's no such thing as a normal night here. A TripAdvisor guest review reads, it felt like a ritual. I wasn't sure if I was eating dinner or being initiated. Another said, it was like dining inside a Bond villain's lair, if the villain was obsessed with kelp. This isn't just dinner, it's a rite of passage. Same at Feviken, the now closed but mythic Swedish restaurant helmed by Magnus Nilsson. Located on a remote hunting estate 600 kilometers north of Stockholm, guests had to fly, drive, then snowmobile their way in. The payoff? A hyper-local menu where nothing came from more than a few kilometers away. Even the butter was made on site. Wild trout aged in beeswax, scallops cooked over burning juniper, pig's head dipped in fermented barley. There was no music, no substitutions, no escape from the wilderness. Nilsson wasn't just serving food, he was orchestrating submission. His motto summed it up, exclusivity is the new luxury. And at the peak of its fame, Feviken closed in 2019. Not due to scandal, not financial collapse. Nilsson simply walked away, burned out, done. But its legacy lived on, not always for the better. Feviken helped usher in an era of extreme, remote, performative dining. It showed young chefs that obscurity could equal prestige, that making access harder made your restaurant matter more. And that exhaustion, even collapse, could be romanticized as artistic purity. In trying to retreat from the pressures of modern gastronomy, Feviken accidentally created a blueprint for even more pressure, more isolation, and more cult-like experiences. These restaurants don't chase crowds, they repel them. Because the fewer people who can get there, the more important it feels to go. Chef Slowik doesn't cook to please, he cooks to control, and that's exactly what the Alchemist in Copenhagen does. A 5-hour, 50-course spectacle, not a meal, a ritual. dishes shaped like human brains, a dessert modelled after a drowned refugee child, a course served with live footage of animal testing. This isn't dinner, it's a morality play in 12 acts. Chef Rasmus Monk puts it plainly, fine dining should make people think. But thinking isn't eating. And no one at the Alchemist is really there only to eat. They are all performing discomfort, performing their worthiness to be there. Just like in the menu when Chef Slowick commands, do not eat, taste, savor, relish. It's not an invitation, it's a command. At the Alchemist, every dish is paired with lights, smoke, sound design, and sorrow. You don't dine, you submit. A critic wrote, "It felt less like a restaurant and more like being held hostage in a Black Mirror episode." A former guest put it simply, trauma with a garnish. And yet, they stay, they clap, they post. Because leaving would mean admitting they were fooled. That they paid $800 to be lectured and unsettled, just like the guests in the menu. They're not being fed, they're being tested. It's about power. The chef decides what matters, the guest just endures. The Alchemist doesn't serve meals, it serves submission. Some restaurants welcome you in. The restaurant Enigma in Barcelona, Spain dares you to find the way out. This isn't only dinner, it orchestrates a disappearance. Just fog machines, blackout glass, and cryptic whispers. Guests don't dine, they drift. Through 7 shape-shifting rooms, like pawns in a surrealist board game. Chef Albert Adria warns you up front. You are no longer at a restaurant, you are inside a concept. And that concept? Total surrender. Every step choreographed, every bite a riddle. Critic Pau Aranos called it. A culinary séance more than a meal. Matt Goulding described it as part Willy Wonka, part Kafka. One guest review reads, "I spent 3 hours in a dream, or maybe a trap." In the menu, Elsa makes it clear, you do not choose, you are chosen. Enigma does the same, but with molecular gastronomy instead of murder. Behind the fog and theatrics, the truth is sharp. This isn't mystery, it's manipulation. The less you know, the more they control.
Did you make that with a Paco jet?
Exactly right, sir.
You know, a Paco jet can produce a powderized, snow-like texture.
Cool.
Yeah, I have one.
You really know your stuff, Mr. Ledford.
And Chef, is he around here somewhere? I'd love
Why
to talk
don't you
with
take
him.
your seat? We're about to serve.
Tyler in the menu is the worst kind of foodie. He worships chefs, memorizes terminology, but he understands nothing. He isn't there to eat. He's there to perform. That's today's influencer diner. At places like Nusret, diners spend $1,000 on gold-covered steak because it looks good on TikTok. Most of us have seen the nonsense steak serving ritual with the server flicking salt like it was a religious experience. As food critic Jay Rayner put it, social media has created a class of diner that values being seen over eating well. This isn't dining, it's digital cosplay. And restaurants know it. They cater to it. Dishes are engineered not for taste, but for virality. Jonathan Nunn, editor of Vittles, explains, "There's a kind of edible theatre now, food that exists solely for the camera. These diners don't want a meal. They want a moment, a thumbnail, a story, a status update." But Tyler's downfall shows the dark side. When asked to actually cook, he's paralysed, exposed. As Chef Slowick sneers, "You know all the phrases, but none of what they mean." Tyler is the perfect symbol of a generation that consumes food content non-stop, but has no appetite for the real thing. Sick of food made for followers, not flavour? Hit subscribe. We're serving truth, no filters, no fluff, no gold flakes.
You haven't touched your food.
There is no food.
No, this is food. Please eat. The menu only makes sense if you eat.
But you told us not to eat.
That is not what I meant, madam. You know it.
At Hawthorne, Chef Slowick's kitchen runs like a cult, silent, brutal and obedient. In the real world, the line between culinary discipline and psychological warfare is razor thin. At the French Laundry, former cooks described shifts that lasted 100 hours a week. The pressure wasn't just to cook, it was to conform. As chef Thomas Keller once told Charlie Rose, "If you're not willing to suffer, you don't belong in my kitchen." At Alinea, even seasoned chefs walked on eggshells. According to a Chicago Tribune feature, one chef recalled, "You could get cut from the team for slicing something wrong. It was like playing professional sports, but hungrier." These kitchens don't serve dinner, they serve dogma. Just like in the menu where Chef Slowick tells his brigade, "We never get to eat, we never get to taste." Culinary culture worships perfection, even if it breaks the people who create it. As Anthony Bourdain once said on Parts Unknown, "Some kitchens are like cults. You give your life to it, and in return, maybe, just maybe, you become great." At Hawthorne, the price of greatness is blood. In real life, the wounds just don't always bleed on camera. "You're lucky to be here." That's what Elsa tells a guest in the menu. And in the real world, that's the unspoken rule of luxury dining. At Sushi Silto in Tokyo, you can't even try unless you're invited by a regular. Not famous enough, not connected, then you're not worthy of the fish. Damon Barrell, the most secretive chef in America, once had a 10-year wait list. But as Ita reported in 2016, many began to doubt whether the restaurant even existed at all. The exclusivity was the product, not the meal. At Franceen in Stockholm, diners are required to prepay hundreds of dollars before even setting foot in the building. Seats are auctioned off like concert tickets. And even if you pay, you can still be rejected for the wrong dietary restriction. Lisa Abend wrote in Time magazine, "Getting a reservation is half the meal." Because in these restaurants, access is the appetizer. The main course is validation. These temples of gastronomy don't just serve food. They serve status. They curate who gets to be seen, who gets to post, who gets to say, "I was there." As chef David Kinch once admitted in an interview, "If we let everyone in, it wouldn't be special anymore." Translation, you don't choose this experience, it chooses you. And this isn't just about food, it's about control. About how luxury industries use scarcity as power. Just like the menu reminds us, you do not choose, you are chosen.
That's fiendish, really. I mean, he's always been keenly aware of food as a history of class. I mean, as have I. Sure. I will say that this emulsion does look slightly split. Yeah, which is really, I mean, you really shouldn't see that in a restaurant of this quality. There it is.
Well, there it is.
In the menu, Lillian doesn't cook, she doesn't serve, she simply tastes and decides who lives or dies. One bad sentence from her and a chef's career is over. Then she forgets them. That's not satire, that's the industry. Food critics wield power, most chefs never will. And they don't always know how to use it. David Chang once said, "Being reviewed by someone who's never worked a line is like being judged by a poet who can't spell." A former Michelin-starred chef put it this way, "One night of service gets boiled down to a few clever paragraphs. It's not a review, it's a verdict." Pete Wells of the New York Times famously torched Guy Fieri's Times Square restaurant. But Fieri wasn't the only casualty. Line cooks, servers, dishwashers, collateral damage for clicks. And Wells has done it many times before. Even chefs with talent aren't safe. One wrong concept, one off night, and it's over. As Slowick puts it, you write people into oblivion and never think twice.
I don't like your food.
What about my food is not to your liking?
You've taken the joy out of eating. Every dish you served tonight has been some intellectual exercise rather than something you want to sit and enjoy. You know what I'd really like?
Tell me.
A cheeseburger.
Margot's cheeseburger isn't just food, it's a rebellion, a rejection of fine dining's theatre, A challenge to the very system Slowick helped build. No tasting notes, no story to explain it. Just meat, cheese and bun, something real. That moment, a chef making a burger instead of a statement, feels like liberation. And in the real world, more chefs are choosing that same freedom. Daniel Patterson walked away from Michelin stars. Today, he runs food justice programs in Oakland. He said it best. People don't want to be impressed anymore. They want to be fed. This isn't comfort food. It's protest. Against crazy price tasting menus. Against dishes that need a monologue. Anthony Bourdain warned us years ago. We've forgotten that food is about joy, not theatre. The cheeseburger is joy. He's not serving a guest, he's serving a human, and maybe, finally, being one himself. He smiles, just barely. Now that's a cheeseburger.
Thank you for dining at Hawthorne.
Thank you. For everything.
The menu isn't fiction. It's a scalpel, slicing open fine dining's pretty facade. Diners aren't eating, they're being eaten. Every bite is a performance, every course a commandment. The theatre is the trap. Pretend to enjoy it, or be exposed as uncultured. Subscribe for more exposés, and remember, sometimes the best food doesn't come with a story, just a burger and a little salt.